Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to go ahead and do a flip through of Sonlight's science for their level K. So it's for kindergarten, ages 5 to 7. This is the science instructor's guide. In the level K, it's going to cover ecosystems, meteorology, physics, and engineering design. If you don't know, the Sonlight is a literature-based curriculum, and that does include their science program. Lots of really good books. I'm going to show you all the books that I bought. I did thrift the majority of them. I will say that is one of the ways I make Sonlight more affordable is I obviously am going to use this for subsequent children, but is to thrift the books. You can make it even more affordable if you have a good library near you and you are able to get the books from the library. I have a very small library, so it was really not an option, unfortunately, so I thrifted the books, but it will make it easier on me in the subsequent years when I do this with my children. So let's go ahead and jump in. Like I said, this is the instructor guide. You can choose a 4-day or a 5-day. I did choose the 5-day. Just know that for the 5th day, it's just one extra book. And when we get to the book part, I will show you which book is the extra one. And that'll kind of help you decide if you want to do the 4-day or the 5-day. Okay, so like I said, it's going to cover ecosystems, meteorology, physics, and engineering design. I did go ahead and buy the 3-ring binder for Sonlight. If you buy the binder, it's really nice because it already has the tabs and it goes up to 36. So Sonlight is a 36-week curriculum. Like I said, you either pick 5 or 4 days. And so what I will do, and you'll notice when we get to the instructor guide, is I will put like week 1 behind there and then I'll put week 2. And because we do other subjects through Sonlight, like their HBL, so history, Bible, literature, I will also take the instructor guide, and it comes in this big packet like this, and I will just split it up in the weeks with the science, with the HBL, so history, Bible, literature, and I will put both of those behind each week they go with. So when I open the tab for week 1, I will have my instructor guide as well as all my activity sheets, any experiment paper, things like that. And it will all be for week 1 for history, Bible, literature through Sonlight, as well as for the Sonlight science. So I will probably do a prep with me for kindergarten, and in that video I can kind of show me breaking this down as well as my HBL and putting it in there if you're interested. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but just so you know. So I did my announcement video of my science for my kindergarten for my son, and so in this video I just wanted to kind of give you guys a more detailed look through in case you actually are interested. And so, you know, it's kind of hard. Sonlight does give you, and most curriculums will give you a sample, but you don't always know what you're getting into. And so I won't show you everything because I would get probably copyrighted. So I just want to give you a little glance at to how science does it. And I just realized this, the ages is actually 5 to 6. I believe I said 5 to 7. So if you can see the Bible verse, Sonlight is a Christian curriculum, but unlike other certain curriculums that are Christian, they do still include things like evolution, but they will give you parent notes on how to either avoid talking about evolution in some of their books, or they will tell you how to approach it from a Christian perspective, which I do really like. Again, your children will stumble upon topics like that in science. And unfortunately, that is what our college level and higher education are going to promote, is an evolution view. And so it is good, I think, as a parent to sit down with your children and to talk about it when the time comes, but Sonlight's going to kind of help you approach the topic and how to approach it from a biblical perspective. But they will also tell you if there's certain areas and you want to just avoid it as a Christian, which I totally understand that as well. They will tell you how you can get around it. There are Christian curriculums out there that are science programs. I believe My Father's World is one of them. And the books that they choose, they will have certain deals and certain agreements with publishers where they will take out words like evolution and certain things like that, where like Sonlight's going to have books that have the millions and millions of years. And obviously as Christians, we don't hold to that view, most Christians. And so where My Father's World is just not even going to include that in their curriculum, Sonlight will. And like I said, I like that because I want to prepare my children for the world with a biblical worldview and not just with the lens of, well, this is what Christians believe, because then we're not really prepping our children for how to interact at a higher education level of science if they choose that route. Okay, So let's go ahead and get into this. So they do really great job in their instructor guide of just talking about everything and just really, let me scoot these over. So Sonlight is obviously very well known for their fabulous instructor guide. So you guys can pause this and then kind of like look into it a little bit more. So that is your table of contents. This is what it's going to cover. It does have the evolution and the age of the earth, because obviously that's a big deal in the science realm, as why we just talked about that. It also has your student activity sheets, helpful hints, and so it just is going to go through all of this. This is very helpful information you will want to read through and take the time before starting your year. There's schedule notes and activity sheets, and then there's also the appendix that they have the different ones there. Okay, so then this is obviously your first page, a lot of text, but this is your welcome. This is where they're going to talk about their stance on evolution and the age of the earth and how they go about that. There is helpful hints, practical suggestions, corrections and suggestions, summary. I mean, Sonlight just, they cover it all. Okay, so these are your science book lists, and I'm going to keep this out so I can show you all the books that I have. So these are the ones you will need, and this is why I chose Sonlight as a science curriculum, not only because of their approach of how they're going to cover topics to prepare my child for the world if he decides to pursue higher education. Again, it's kindergarten, so we will walk through those in a minute. This is going to be your Sonlight Science Kit supplies, and it tells you what weeks you are going to need this, and it says one set of the consumable Discover and Do Science Kindergarten paper packet worksheets are included in the experiment book with each experiment. If you have more than one student and you do not wish to cut pages out of your book, be sure to purchase an additional kindergarten paper packet. And so I did. So this is what they're talking about. So they have one of these included with the experiment book, but you will need another one of these if A, you don't want to cut through, is what they're saying, or if you have subsequent children, because Sonlight will change their curriculum and make updates every once in a while, and sometimes they will do big changes. So instead of having to fork over more money, it is great if you go ahead and buy any consumables like this for children that you want to go through this program and get your money's worth more. So I bought this for my second son, and then me and my oldest for this semester, we will use the pages that they're saying are in their kindergarten science experiment book. I will show you that in a minute. I also went ahead and, since we're talking about that, I went ahead and I bought these, which is additional science, let me see where it says, extra activity sheets. So these are actually in the instructor guide in here. That's going to go with not your experiments, but with whatever you're talking about, those. Okay. And so again, I wanted to make sure I got those for my second son. So again, this will at least get me to my second son, Ezra, so he can use this when he goes through kindergarten. And that's how you save a lot of money with Sonlight. So I will just hold these and I will put these back for my youngest. Okay, so that is your supply kit. And then here is a really nice page, which is just your quick start guide for science. And they're just going to kind of give you this in a snapshot if you just need this really quickly. Section 2 is going to be your schedule notes and your activity sheets. And so let's go ahead and get a glance at how this is typically going to work for us. So as you can see, this is what your typical Sonlight instructor guide is going to look like. I'm going to zoom out for just a quick second. You can see that they do 36 weeks, and the black circle is going to tell you what week you're on. And of course that will move as you go through the weeks. It's going to tell you level K science and the date range, and you can put that in yourself, because some people start in August, some people start in September, some people start, you know, you can fill it in when you do. Some people start their new curriculums in January. It just really depends, and Sonlight gives you that option. And Sonlight is also, because it's a literature-based curriculum, they use this as your record keeping, and that's why it is laid out the way it is, so that you're if you ever get audited in your state, they can see really quickly what you did on what week, what was the date range, what did you do on the day you did this, and then they can go and look in your notes. So just fabulous that they already do a lot of the work for you. Okay, so as you can see, these are your resources, and then this is your days of the week. Like I said, I chose to do a 5-day science program. You can do a 4-day program through Sonlight Science if you want, and you just will not be reading this book. That is all that is scheduled on my 5th day. Okay, So I like how they do this. This is the supplies that you're going to need. And then this is your shopping or your planning for next week. And this is so helpful. If you know, you know. It is nice to know ahead of time. You can add this to your grocery list, or you can go ahead and grab this. It's already being told to you a week before. So for me, it's no excuses. And then these are all your notes. So your notes on your ant book, it's going to tell you what day, the pages, and then you can read through this. I usually would read through this on Saturday or Sunday. It is kind of open and go where you can read through this as you're teaching your children, but I just prefer to do it ahead of time just because, again, my kids are so young. And then you can see there's more notes on the back, and then there's more notes as well, right? And then you get into your activity sheets, and they had scheduled there's your answers for your activity sheets. And then all of your activity sheets, they went ahead and they told you what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. And you don't do you only do a couple questions a day, I believe, which is really nice for kindergarten level. Okay, so that's generally how your instructor guide is going to be. So as you can see, the dot moved. This is week 2. These are your days, your supply, or these are going to be your resources, and then they schedule it out what you're going to do each day, handhold you, your supplies you're going to need, and of course the supplies you're going to need to buy, notes. Just really, really good hand holding. This one seems to be a little bit shorter of notes. And then there's your answer sheets for the back. And most kids aren't writing at kindergarten level. I know people have complained about that before when I looked at the reviews. This would be something that you could just have your children orientate to you. Again, because the age range goes up to 6 and it could even go up to 1st grade, that's why I think they include writing. And so you would just write in your child's answers. Here's your activity sheets. That one was a lot shorter. It was only 1 sheet front and back. And then here's week 3. So again, you kind of get that idea. We are going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to the appendix. Okay. So in the appendix, they give you a little certificate of completion. I think that's really fun. Your kids will love that. And that's good for their records as well. And then this is your appendix 1. This is the weekly subject list. Again, this would be great for your records, but also if you get audited, that would be great to make a list, to make a copy for. Appendix 2, the list of additional items you will need. So some of the supplies can be found in your Discover and Do Science Kindergarten supply kit, or other items can be found around your house. Below is a list of items that are not found in the supply kit. So you can buy the supply kit. They highly recommend that you buy the supply kit. I did buy it, and I will show you that in a second. I'll just give you a quick glance at it. I'm not going to show you everything that's in it, but just to see if that is worth the money to you, so you don't have to go on Amazon and buy those. And some of those, science things are going to be hard to find, or you're going to get like 14 of them and you probably don't need 14 of them. So just to see if it's worth the money. For me, it was. But these are obviously other things that you're going to need that are not included. Things like cream of tartar, food coloring, glue, a hair dryer. And so it's nice that they go ahead and kind of tell you this, and then they tell you what experiment it is used and how soon you will need those. If you're going to maybe borrow those from somebody, or you need to get those in on your list. Oh, and there's some on the back as well. Okay, and then these are appendix cutout sheets. Just a little glance at these. So these will probably be things I would assume your child is going to cut out. And I believe that is it. And these are the list, and so you can kind of look at those while I finish talking. So those are that was the instructor guide. If there is anything specific you guys want to see, or a specific week or whatever, then go ahead and comment that down below. I just wanted to give you a little bit more of a detailed flip through than I did when I announced what science program we were going to use. So now we will go ahead and I will show you the kindergarten science experiments. You noticed on the instructor guide there is going to be a weekly experiment that you're going to do. So the experiment is scheduled on your instructor guide, and we will go ahead and walk through that. So I went ahead and I pulled back up week 1, as you can see, okay? And so the Discover and Do Science Kindergarten experiment is right here. Experiment number 1, why do ants build tunnels? Okay, so this is gonna be in that book. We are going to now grab the book. And this is the book that you get. And this is probably as close to a textbook as Sonlight will ever give you. So kindergarten science experiments. It is called the Discover and Do. So if you watched the announcement video I did for the science I chose for my son's kindergarten year, I did say that there is a DVD that goes with this. And I didn't order it because it kind of sounded like Sonlight was going to give it to me if I bought this, but I don't see it. I'm going to double check and see if it's on my Sonlight under my account, but I guess I'm gonna have to go and buy it, which is totally fine. And the idea with the DVD is you can watch somebody, and it's supposed to be pretty fun and interactive, but you're gonna watch them do your experiment of the week. So if there's a week where it's just too much and you're like, I can't do the experiment because it is a lot of work with a little kid, then instead of performing the experiment, you could watch the DVD. And I think it still is immersive and interactive, where your kid is going to still make predictions and things like that. It's just a little bit different. And so as someone who's hopefully going to get pregnant with my third child, that would be a nice kind of breakup of the monotony of if I need a break and I just can't do the experiment one week because of morning sickness or whatever. This will be a great option to do the DVD version. So I will definitely go and buy that. But let's go ahead and just look inside. And like I said, this is going to be your experiment book that you're going to use. And then you can kind of see the table of contents. You can pause it. Here's your page number. Here's all the experiments you are going to do, and these are what is scheduled on your instructor guide. And so we'll go ahead and flip through a little bit. There is your table of contents continued, and then your appendixes over here. You've got your different recipes, your sticker template, and things like that. And this is all just introduction. Here is your supply kit list. And again, if you bought the supply kit, these items can be found in that box. And like I said, I did buy the box, so I will open it here in just a second. Okay, it continues over here, and now we get into our experiments. So, why do ants build tunnels? So you can see that it's not as boring as a textbook. It's not overwhelming with just text. You've got some little snapshots, and then it's literally your experiment. Key concepts over here. And then you have make connections, did you know? Here's it walking through with you. And then they do tell you possible answers are in green. These are the questions you're going to ask your child. Dig a tunnel in a mound. Conclusions to be drawn and takeaways. So you can see we're stepping up from our pre-K. If you did pre-K with Sonlight, definitely stepping it up. But you can see that if you just don't have the energy to do this, that DVD would be very helpful. And here's the see the bigger picture, important, and did you know? So I definitely think some of this you're probably going to want to read through. Again, if you have young kids, not necessarily the kid who's doing this, but like me, I have a 3-year-old, I will probably read through this just so I know what I'm getting myself into. And then how do ants walk? That's going to be experiment number 2 for your second weeks. Okay, so that is your kindergarten science experiment book. And I can just kind of do a little bit of, let's see. So, and then I wanted to show you real quick. So these are the ones you would take out of your book, right? And cut and use. Okay? Or if you don't want to do that, that's where they're saying you could use these, okay? Or if you have subsequent children and you cut those pages out, these ones, and you use them, then this would be what you're going to use for subsequent children. Let's go ahead and let me just show you the box. I'm not going to go into great detail with it. Okay, so this is the Discover and Do a science supply kit, and it comes in this box, and it was in the box that Sonlight sent me with all of the other stuff I ordered from them. And so this is just to make it easier. You do not need to buy this. I can't remember how much it was. I'll try to put it on the screen. It was definitely under $100, but it was definitely close to it. But what's in here, if you don't buy the kit, you are going to have to go out and get those for the experiments, unless you do just the DVD, which again, you're the parent, you decide. Okay, so this is what's in here. They're going to tell you there's this nice sheet in here. Discover and Do Science Kit. Warning, it gives you a little warning with the glass thermometer. And then, of course, they're going to tell you how much of quantity is in all of these. So again, you can pause this if you want and look that this is what you're going to have to go out and source if you do not buy the cardboard box, if you do not buy this. Okay, so definitely something to think about. Okay, and then they just had this on top, and then this is kind of what it looks like on the inside. So again, like, you're going to have to go and source this. Like, that's where I was like, no, this mama can't. I can't. This tubing, you know. Again, if you're super handy and you have stuff like this laying around, some bubble wrap, you know. I mean, there's just a lot of little things. Toothpicks in here. Cheetos, you know. There's some cups. There's your ping pong ball, your cork. Here's the clay. I remember reading about the clay. Let me see what else. Here's your seeds. Do not eat. So they do have good warnings on there and stuff. I mean, I'm going to keep this away from my kids. And then you can see all of this. And I think it is kind of sorted. I was going to say maybe it was sorted by, like, all of this is probably used in one, I would think. But you can just see how, you know, string and stuff. So this is what's going to make it quicker, more efficient, and I don't have to go out and search for all of this. So I'm so happy that they did this. I'm glad this was an option. I don't know if this has always been an option. So yes, so this kind of gives you a little look. Comment down below if there's anything specific you want to see, or if you have any questions about this, but this is literally how they shipped it to me. I just made sure I added this in addition to all of our science stuff. And then I would just make sure you keep this out of reach of your kids, because if they get into this, I mean, game over, right? Like, who knows where any of this is going to go. So my kids are going to love this. My son is really into science right now. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way, and then we will go through all of the literature books that go with this. Now we're going to go through this. This is your book list that you will need. These are your literature books. Sonlight does not use textbooks. Obviously, you saw the experiment book, but they do not use textbooks, and so they use good literature books. And this, like I said, is one of the reasons why I chose Sonlight. So I am going to go ahead and we are going to go through these books. Now, like I said, you can go on Sonlight's website and just buy them all together. But I went ahead and thrifted, and I was able to save a ton of money. You could also see if your library has these. Okay, so now some of these I could not find thrifted, so I did buy them through Sonlight's website. So the first one I couldn't find was ants. So that one I had to buy through them, as well as the bees and wasps, and I'll flip through these in just a second, as well as the rainforest. So these I could not find on thrift books. I only looked on thrift books, but I couldn't find them. So those three I bought, as well as the Usborne Children's Encyclopedia, the new edition. While they did have these on thrift books, they did not have the one that had this QR code, and I was like, yes, I want the one with the QR code, and just over 650 internet links, because my kids are so into science right now, but a lot of times when we're learning about something, they're like, oh, mommy, can we watch a video? Like, my kids want to actually see these things. And so I'm like, okay, so here's a QR code here to see unusual looking creatures that live in the oceans. So again, I went ahead and I bought this through Sonlight just because I could not find the one with the QR code. Okay, so those are the only science books that I did buy through Sonlight. The rest of these I went ahead and I thrifted. So here is the DK Find Out Science, From Seed to Plant, Gail Gibbons. Why Do Elephants Need the Sun? Now I was able to thrift these, which are those little Usborne books, like the ones I said I couldn't find. So Weather and Reptiles. So you do just have to look, and I was able to find those. The Magic School Bus. You can see my thrift book sticker. Wangaria's Tree of Peace. And then this is the book you need for that 5th day. And this is the little kid's first big book of why. And I was like, of course I'm gonna get this. and it looks like so much fun. So let's go ahead and start with this one in case you're curious, right? So this is what you need for the 5th day. So if you want 5 days, then you choose the 5-day instructor guide, and this is the only extra book you're going to need. And I was like, yeah. Okay, so here's the contents. You can pause it. I'll zoom in a little bit and you can pause it and just kind of look at, you know, why do dogs make good pets? Why do squirrels bury acorns? Why does thunder come after lightning? So just like all these questions that kids ask, I even am like, I don't know how to answer that. So this is just wonderful. Okay, so then obviously you can see how it kind of starts. Sorry, the lighting. Amazing Me. And it's super fun, super colorful. This is, again, why I love Sonlight, because why would you want a boring textbook when you can have books that are awesome? They keep your children's attention. Let me skip through a little bit. Just like awesome, right? All these questions. My son's asking about losing teeth already, so he's gonna like that. Why do we use the toilet? So really, really cool book. So I am glad that I got that. Okay, so then we'll go through this. This is Wangaria's Tree of Peace. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I am not trying to do that on purpose. It's a true story from Africa. And again, just a different way to learn instead of a textbook. And I find that usually with science, it's so dry because you're doing like experiments, which I guess is kind of like hands-on. But typically you would think, oh, a textbook's the only way you can learn about science. And it's like, well, no, this is actually a great way. So you can see it's kind of like a storybook. All right, the next book is The Magic School Bus. Of course, this one, you know, most people have seen Magic School Bus books. Lots of text, but always a lot of good information. You know, it's always kind of fun how they lay it out, but it's always so educational. I always learn so much. And Sonlight usually breaks books like this up really well. It's not like, oh, this is what you're going to read on Thursday. Like, they'll probably break this up for a couple weeks or something. Okay. And I will just go ahead and show you. So the two I got from Thrift Books are hardback, and these ones are paper ones. So these are the Usborne Beginners. So this is Rainforest. You can kind of see the contents. You can pause it. So very simple, kind of straight to the point. But again, it's focusing in on one topic, but it's not like death by a textbook, especially for a kindergartner. Lots of good colorful images. So I'm just gonna kind of flip through these a little bit for you guys. And most kids are like super intrigued by bees and wasps, ants. And I just love that Sonlight isn't gonna focus on just one thing, like mammals or insects, you know, because a lot of times what you'll find with curriculums is that they're very focused. And I get burned out really easy, and I've noticed my oldest does too. And so I like that they're going to, you know, focus on many different things and not just beat the animal drum all day, all year. And see, this was thrifted and it's totally fine. So don't rule out thrift books if you want to be a Sonlight family. Or the library, that would be even better. Okay, so you can see that one. Okay, and then these are awesome. We had some of these in our pre-kinder package for Sonlight. They're the Wells Book of Knowledge. So why do elephants need sun, excuse me. And these are just awesome. They're fun. Okay. All right, and then here's the Gail Gibbons From Seed to Plant. Gail Gibbons books are wonderful as well. She covers so many different topics and thoroughly fleshes them out. And most libraries have her books. but hers are great, I think, in place of a textbook. So if you have a child that is like, loves dinosaurs or horses or anything like that, Gail Gibbons books are wonderful to look into. So it's not really a surprise that Sonlight chose that. Okay, here's your DK Find Out Science. Okay, and this was a used book, so when I got it, there was a bunch of tabs in here, so I did have to pull them out. So oops, sorry, I wanted to do the table of contents. So there's your table of contents. Again, you can pause it. And I think when I was looking at reviews, some people said this book seemed a little bit advanced for kindergarten. I think it's towards the end of the year, if I remember correctly. But I know some people said it was a little bit advanced. But again, I own the book now, and so this will be great to grow into. And so just kind of giving you an idea of the books and why Sonlight does what they do. So there's that. And then again, here's that Usborne, the children's encyclopedia, QR codes. And here's your contents. And now I don't know if they're going to cover all of this, but this kind of gives you a snap. Sorry, my son is laughing. Okay, so internet links, so they're going to tell you kind of where they're at, where they're getting them, what you can do. Okay. Very colorful, again, traditional Usborne books. I have noticed that Sonlight chooses a lot of Usborne books. Again, they're just so beautifully done. I just wish the school systems would do this for kids.